Have you ever looked at your dinner plate and wondered, could something this ordinary be quietly helping your kidneys? Or slowly wearing them down without a single warning sign? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never hear. Kidney damage doesn't start with pain. It starts in silence. And one of the most common foods Americans eat every single day may be pushing your kidneys harder than you realize. I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and I need you to listen closely for the next few seconds because if your kidneys are already under stress, or if you're over 50, the wrong daily food choices can speed up decline long before lab numbers raise alarms. No symptoms, no obvious red flags, just gradual fatigue, swelling, and loss of function happening quietly in the background. And what makes this even more serious is that many well-meaning people are trying to eat healthy, yet unknowingly choosing foods that increase mineral load, blood sugar stress, and filtration pressure on already vulnerable kidneys. This is not about fear, it's about awareness. Because the good news is, when you reduce the load, the kidneys don't have to fight as hard. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 specific types of rice that can actually lighten the burden on your kidneys, help flush out toxins more gently, and support long-term repair, including one type almost everyone has at home, but nearly always uses the wrong way. Stay with me because what you learn next could change how your kidneys feel months from now, not overnight, but for the better. When most people hear the words white rice, they instinctively tense up. They've been told for years that anything white is empty bad, or something the body should avoid, especially if kidney health is already a concern. I've seen this fear play out countless times. Patients come into my office proudly telling me they've cut out white rice, completely believing they've made the safest possible choice. And yet weeks later, they feel weaker, more fatigued, more bloated than before. Something doesn't add up. One patient in particular stands out, a man in his early 60s trying to do everything right. He eliminated white rice overnight and replaced it with whole grains, brown rice, and heart-healthy alternatives. On paper, it sounded perfect. But within a month, he complained of heavy digestion, poor appetite, and swelling that seemed to worsen after meals. His labs didn't scream danger yet, but his body was clearly under strain. When we look closer, the issue wasn't what he was eating to be healthy. It was what his kidneys were being forced to process. Here's what most people never hear. White rice is not nutritionally impressive, but for stressed kidneys that can actually be its strength. During milling, the outer layers of rice are removed. Those layers are where most of the potassium and phosphorus live. And for weakened kidneys, these 2 minerals are not harmless. Excess potassium can disrupt heart rhythm. Excess phosphorus can accelerate vascular damage and increase fatigue. When these minerals build up in the blood, the kidneys must work overtime to filter them out day after day, meal after meal. White rice, by contrast, is naturally low in both potassium and phosphorus. That means it delivers energy without forcing the kidneys into constant overdrive. Clinical dietary guidelines for kidney-conscious eating often include white rice, not because it's perfect, but because it's predictable, light, and easy for the body to tolerate. Less mineral load means less filtration pressure, and less pressure gives damaged kidneys a chance to breathe. Digestion matters here more than people realize. Heavy fibrous foods demand more work from the gut. When digestion slows, the body diverts energy just to break food down. That energy has to come from somewhere, and often it comes at the expense of detoxification and fluid balance. White rice digests easily. It doesn't ferment aggressively. It doesn't linger. And when digestion becomes smoother, the body can redirect energy toward essential processes like waste removal and maintaining internal stability. But this is where white rice becomes dangerous if misunderstood. White rice is not a hero food on its own. Eaten in large amounts, drowned in salty sauces, or used as a standalone meal day, after day, it loses its benefit. The problem is not the rice, it's how people use it. Rinsing white rice thoroughly removes excess surface starch, making it lighter. Cooking it with more water and draining the excess further reduces heaviness. Pairing it with kidney-friendly vegetables, herbs, garlic, onion, and modest portions of lean protein transforms it from a filler into a supportive foundation. This is where intention changes everything. White rice should be seen as a neutral base, a calm platform that allows other nourishing foods to do their job without overwhelming sensitive systems. When used this way, many people notice something subtle but important: less post-meal fatigue, less bloating, and a sense that the body isn't fighting itself anymore. That's not a miracle. That's reduced workload. And yet, even when white rice is used correctly, many people still struggle. Because food isn't just about minerals or digestion, it's also about how the body handles blood sugar energy release and long-term metabolic stress. And that's where the next type of rice changes the conversation completely. Because just knowing this isn't enough, there's another factor that quietly damages kidneys even faster if you ignore it. If white rice teaches us how to reduce mineral overload, then basmati rice introduces a different, often overlooked danger: blood sugar stress. Because even when potassium and phosphorus are under control, unstable blood sugar can quietly damage the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys year after year without obvious warning signs. I remember a woman in her late 50s who came to me frustrated and confused. She had done everything right. She switched to low-mineral foods, cut down salt, even reduced portions. Yet her energy kept crashing in the afternoon, and her kidney numbers refused to improve. What she didn't realize was that her meals were sending her blood sugar on a daily roller coaster, and her kidneys were paying the price. Here's the science most people never connect. The kidneys are packed with microscopic blood vessels called glomeruli. These delicate filters depend on stable blood flow. Repeated spikes in blood sugar cause inflammation and stiffening in these vessels, reducing their ability to filter waste efficiently. Over time, this accelerates kidney decline even in people who don't consider themselves diabetic. Studies consistently show that maintaining steadier glucose levels helps protect kidney structure and slows functional loss. This is where basmati rice quietly stands apart from other white rice varieties. White basmati has a lower glycemic index, typically around 50 to 58, compared to many standard white rices that spike above 70. That difference matters. It means glucose enters the bloodstream more slowly, reducing sudden insulin surges and easing stress on blood vessels that support kidney filtration. For people managing kidney strain or kidney strain combined with blood sugar concerns, this single property can change how the body responds to meals. But basmati doesn't stop there. Because its long grain and aromatic smaller portions feel satisfying. That naturally limits mineral intake without forcing restriction. Digestion is steadier, energy lasts longer, and the heavy post-meal fatigue many people associate with rice simply doesn't show up as often. When metabolism calms down, the kidneys don't have to compensate for metabolic chaos. They can focus on what they do best, maintaining balance and filtering waste. Preparation, however, determines whether basmati helps or harms. Rinsing thoroughly removes excess surface starch. Cooking in plenty of water keeps the grains light and fluffy. Heavy oils, rich sauces, and excessive salt erase its advantages instantly. When paired with steamed vegetables, herbs, garlic, onion, and modest portions of lean protein, basmati becomes a stable foundation rather than a metabolic trigger. Over time, people who switch to basmati the right way often notice something subtle but powerful: fewer energy crashes, less heaviness after meals, and a sense that their body isn't constantly trying to recover from what they just ate. That stability matters more than perfection. Because kidney protection isn't about dramatic changes, it's about reducing daily stress meal after meal. But here's where many people still get caught off guard. Even with low minerals and steadier blood sugar, there's another factor that can quietly undo all of this if you're not careful. Because just knowing this still isn't enough. There's one more type of rice most people misunderstand completely, and it may be the deciding factor. After understanding mineral load with white rice and blood sugar stress with basmati, many people assume they've already solved the problem. But this is where Jasmine rice quietly enters the conversation and where many people get it dangerously wrong. Jasmine rice isn't bad. In fact, when used correctly, it can be one of the most comforting, easiest foods for a stressed body. The danger isn't the rice itself. The danger is how invisible its effects can be when habits aren't controlled. I've seen this pattern repeatedly. Someone switches to Jasmine rice because it's soft, aromatic, and easy to eat, especially when appetite is low or digestion feels fragile. Meals become more enjoyable again. But weeks later, fatigue creeps back in. Blood sugar starts swinging, swelling becomes more noticeable at night, and the person can't understand why, because on the surface, everything still feels light and safe. Here's what's really happening. Jasmine rice is milled, which means like white rice, it's naturally lower in potassium and phosphorus than whole grains. That part works in favor of the kidneys. But Jasmine rice has a moderate to high glycemic index, often ranging between 68 and 80, depending on preparation. That means glucose can enter the bloodstream quickly if portions aren't controlled or if it's eaten alone. Over time, repeated glucose spikes don't just affect energy, they stress blood vessels, including those feeding the kidney's filtration units. This creates a quiet contradiction. Jasmine rice feels gentle going down, but when eaten mindlessly, it can create internal stress you don't immediately feel. And that's what makes it dangerous. The kidneys don't complain. They adapt until one day they can't anymore. Used correctly, however, jasmine rice becomes a different story. Smaller portions matter more than people realize. Pairing it with vegetables, healthy fats, or lean protein slows glucose absorption and stabilizes the metabolic response. Rinsing the rice thoroughly removes excess surface starch. Cooking it with slightly more water creates a softer grain that's easier to digest and less likely to overwhelm the system. Eating slowly, actually slowing down, reduces the glucose surge further. One of jasmine rice's strengths is psychological as much as physical. Its aroma and texture make modest servings feel satisfying. That helps people avoid overeating without feeling restricted. And when meals feel comforting instead of stressful, consistency becomes possible. Consistency is where kidney protection actually happens, not in extreme rules, but in repeatable habits. Some people even benefit from strategic variety, mixing small portions of jasmine rice with basmati or other low-potassium grains to balance pleasure and control. This keeps meals enjoyable while limiting both mineral load and blood sugar volatility. Over time, that balance reduces cumulative stress on the kidneys in a way no single superfood ever could. But here's the part that almost no one talks about. Even if you choose the right rice control portions and prepare it perfectly, there is one final factor that can override everything we've discussed. And it's the reason some people still progress to dialysis despite eating what they believe is a kidney-friendly diet. Because just knowing which rice to eat still isn't enough, and what comes next may determine whether your kidneys keep working or slowly shut down. Before we end, I want you to hear this clearly. Your kidneys don't fail overnight, and neither does your chance to protect them disappear suddenly. What truly matters is what you do consistently, quietly, day after day. You don't need extreme diets or fear-based rules. You need awareness, balance, and habits your body can actually sustain. Even small changes, choosing gentler foods, watching portions, paying attention to timing, can slowly reduce the stress your kidneys carry. If this video helped you see food differently, please save it. Not for today, but for the days when you forget, when old habits creep back, or when a loved one needs guidance. And if you care about protecting your kidneys, avoiding silent damage, and learning what truly supports long-term health, subscribe to this channel. I share clear, evidence-based medical insights here, without panic, without hype, so you can make informed decisions for your body. And remember this, your kidneys are resilient when given the chance. They respond to reduced strain. They respond to consistency. They respond when you stop fighting them and start supporting them. You're not too late. You're still in control. And as long as you keep learning, adjusting, and caring for your body, there is always room for improvement, one meal, one choice, one day at a time.